Windrock in the fall. Last year was probably one of my favorite times ever at Windrock, and I just couldn't wait to go back to experience that fall time. The leaves are falling, it's a little cool, the crowds are a little less, racing's over. I just love it. I hope to come to Windrock every year during the fall. I was able to connect with Jeff and Axel and Jake, and this was just a nice little day to enjoy Windrock. Just riding. I haven't been on the downhill bike a lot. I think the last time I was on the downhill bike was out in California at Big Bear for just one day with Chris. So I've really only been on the downhill bike, I guess, twice throughout the whole summer. Hurt my hand, Tennessee Nationals. You probably heard this story a million times. But been riding a lot, been getting stronger, working out a lot. But this was my, my little trip to Windrock in the fall. So I rode with Jeff for a couple of laps. We did a warm up on Top Gun, a little bit did a lap on Dropout, and then I was excited to see that Reach Around had been reopened and cleaned up, and so we got a nice lap on Reach Around. Reach Around was one of the tougher trails at the tracks that I had ever raced a few years ago, and a tree had gone down and a bridge had washed out, and so Reach Around really wasn't accessible for a while. And then we ended up, me, Jake, and Alex, Axel ended up going up to Windmill, and Axel's been collecting some of the old signs that have been laying in the woods, so we were looking for the one at Windmill, and we ended up deciding to go look at the overlook. I don't think either one of them had actually seen this overlook before you get to the entrance of Lower Windmill, and it's probably just one of the best views that there is at Windrock. At least the most accessible view, I guess technically from the top, from up where the actual windmills is probably the best view. But this is a great little spot to take pictures, and so we kind of monkeyed around. We were exploring down on some of the ledges and just having a good time. I really enjoy this type of just, kind of having an adventure, not worried so much about how fast you're going, but just enjoying the day. And we took a bunch of pictures, and yeah, it was a great time. And then we went on and finished up Windmill. So the last time I'd been on Windmill was during the Dakota Norton, and I guess that would have been, I guess it was a year ago that I did the Aaron Gwynn and Dakota Norton camp, and we spent most of our time on Windmill. So we finished up this lap, and yeah, just an incredible first day out at Windrock. Glad to be there. Not a lot of things, or I guess I couldn't ask for more, really. The next day I'd be going to Wildside with Steven and Morgan, but I ended up coming back on Sunday, and I met Blake, aka Rasta Pasta. And so by this time, I'd been on the downhill bike for 2 days. I was feeling really good on Sunday. I think it must have rained a little bit because the dirt felt a little better. It wasn't quite as dusty. And I was starting to really kind of find my groove. Like, one of the things I noticed on the first day is I just was scared to even pull like small doubles. I haven't been jumping a lot. And so by the third day here, I was starting to pull some of the doubles, starting to pop off of things. I was feeling more comfortable hitting some of the jumps. And Top Gun is a great warm-up lap. It's a newer trail. It used to be typically you would warm up on Talladega, and then you move on to Dropout, which, Dropout's a whole nother story. The trail itself was reworked, I think in July. They was working on the upper section, and it's basically like a whole different trail. I was kind of turned off to it at first. It's washed away and eroded quite a bit, so I think some of the work that's been done has now been kind of destroyed. But after I rode it a couple times, I started to kind of appreciate it as a new trail. And you know, I really have attempted to, especially with Windrock, I've been coming here for years now. I really tried to kind of think of things that changed, not as being good or bad, but just they've changed, and just accept them and appreciate the whatever has changed for what it is. And so with Dropout, I think kind of my first reaction would be like, well, it's not like it used to be, so it's bad. But the more I rode it, you know, I just tried to look at it like, well, it's just simply different. It's not better or worse. It's just different, and I'll learn to ride it and learn to enjoy it, just like I have previous iterations of Dropout. Dropout's kind of an erosion trail. Typically once a year they would sort of resurface it or rework it, and then it kind of erodes back down into the kind of state like you see here. So a lot of the trails, except for the upper section of Reach Around, were in pretty eroded state. So I'm sure once Aaron and others get off for the race season, they'll come back and start refreshing the park, and before we know it, it'll be winter time, and it'll be back into race season. So they usually have a race league in the winter, and then Tennessee Nationals is the first big race at the park, and a lot of things get a lot of attention during that period of time. So just finished up Dropout with Blake, and it was I think it was just probably like the third or fourth time that I'd done it, and I started to feel like I was picking up speed on it and starting to understand the trail a little bit better. So the next trail I think that we did was Reach Around, and Reach Around I think was my favorite trail this weekend out of this fall trip. They have reworked the upper section of it, and it was, you know, it's a trail that I have a lot of history with, or I shouldn't say, maybe a lot of history is not the right way to say it. I have a fondness, if you will. Right there where we turned right used to be, it was actually a loamer that was cut in for a race, and I can't even remember at this point how many years ago the race was. Probably 5 years ago. I raced it on, I believe, either my trail bike or my enduro bike, and I just remember I was over my head on this race. Reach Around was a tough trail for me, especially some of the lower sections, and you know, there's just a fondness, I think, when you go through that crucible of, you know, coming up, progressing, learning how to ride these trails better and better. And so for a long time though, like I said earlier, Reach Around has been out of commission. I think it started with a big flood that took out a lower section and a bridge, and it made basically where you couldn't proceed past a certain point on Reach Around. And then I guess it was last year they built a new lower Reach Around section, and then I think they had kind of opened it back up when they built the new lower section, but then a tree went down and it washed out an area very badly, and so it really hadn't been ridden, I would say, over I don't know, over the last year. But somebody's been working on it, and I think it was the best ride of the weekend, and so it was just nice to get some laps on it. The upper section's a lot of fun. I feel like, you know, I progressed each time that I did another lap on it, and so I was thankful for, yeah, getting to run some laps on Reach Around. So the next trail that I would run, and this is one of Steven's buddies that I'm riding with on Sunday, was Lower Windmill. And you know, it's Windrock, it's steep, it's fun, and it was a great trip. I hope you enjoy the video. I will say that I had torn my bike completely down and greased everything, and there's still something making a funky little noise, and so I got to get to the bottom of it. I don't know if it's an internal cable that's slapping or what it is, but something definitely, even after tearing the whole bike down, greasing everything, was making a little slapping noise. So I apologize if that takes away from watching the POV, but I hope you enjoy the video. You know, look, the point of this really is to say I love Windrock in the fall. I hope to always go to Windrock in the fall, and yeah, if you haven't, you should definitely hit Windrock up in the fall, and I'll see you on the next one. I'll have a video that I'll put out from Wildside, which really was an unexpected surprise. I think I had a lot of preconceived notions of what Wildside was going to be like. It's a trail that Steven worked on a lot over the last year, and I'll put out a video on that in the next couple of days. So, all right, take care. See you on the next one.
Thank God for catch berms. Woo! Just kind of like lost my momentum for that little rocky thing.
The hardest part on that section for me is kind of going over the roots.
Yeah.
Classic rock in blocks.
That's the music, lady.
Party weekend on 103.5 WY.